He downloads the image of the bite impression and then superimposes the images as he designs a custom dental inlay digitally. The dental assistant selects a glass ceramic block of the appropriate size and color. She anchors the block in a milling chamber and shuts the lid. Two computerized drills now sculpt the block into the dental inlay, guided by the digitally produced design. This process takes less than 10 minutes. The dentist then pulls the ceramic inlay from the base. This leaves a small nub, which he then grinds away. Next, using rubber wheels and diamond-impregnated brushes, he polishes the entire restoration to a high gloss. He conditions the inlay with hydrofluoric acid to prepare it for adhesion to the tooth. He dips the filling in water and the hardened solution flakes off. He then thoroughly dries the inlay. Next, he adds a drop of silane, which will promote the bonding of the inlay to the tooth. The dentist injects tooth-colored resin cement into the cavity. He presses the digitally designed and milled inlay into the cement, then scrapes away the overflow. Halogen light on the dental work hardens the cement. He takes another impression of the patient's bite to confirm the new inlay is perfect. Finally, the dentist polishes the contours of the ceramic inlay. And it's time for the reveal. He uses the camera to magnify the new dental work for the patient's scrutiny. It's taken just an hour and a quarter for her custom restoration to be designed, milled, and installed, all thanks to digital dentistry. The nail clipper was invented in 1896 in the United States, and soon it was at everyone's fingertips. By 1902, ads marketed it as the gem, and it was sold by the dozen for $2 in US currency. As an alternative to scissors, it was an idea that just clicked. More than a century after its invention, the nail clipper is still behind many a well-groomed hand. Its popularity numbers in the millions, and no manicure set would be complete without one. Production begins with this elaborate die. It's about 1 meter in length, and it has 12 different shaped openings. Hydraulic machinery repeatedly forces a steel sheet through the various openings as the sheet moves forward. With each stroke, the parts look more like nail clipper jaws. The clipping edge starts out straight and blunt, and gradually becomes concave. The machinery also cuts and shapes the holes for assembling the nail clippers. In just 1 minute, a total of 80 strokes generate a dozen nail clipper jaws. Here, the clipper jaws vibrate with abrasive stones and organic acid for up to 20 hours. This gentle polishing makes the parts gleam, but doesn't ruin the edges and contours. At the next station, a worker aligns pairs of clipper jaws for assembly. Using a mechanical press, he drives the rivet into the hole at the gripping end of the jaws. He flips the assembled clipper jaws over, inserts the other half of the rivet, and then presses the two tightly together. The rivet locks the gripping end of the nail clippers together so that the two jaws can't be twisted apart. Next, a worker smooths the edges of the clipper's gripping end against an abrasive wheel. This grinding evens out any irregularities and makes the two clipper jaws appear as one at the gripping end. Attention now turns to the cutting end of the clippers. After locking them in a device, a worker grinds the concave edges until they match up. These nail clipper jaws are now ready for the lever, but the lever itself still needs some work. Using a little press, they make a hole and an indentation between its two prongs, allowing the lever to sit more comfortably on the clipper. Levers are then fed one at a time to a set of drills that carve little holes into the prongs of the fork. The holes are just big enough for a pin that's 1.3 millimeters in diameter. Here's the view from the side, before and after drilling. A worker now inserts a bolt in the cutting end of the clipper jaws. This bolt has a little hole in the end of it. He presses the jaws together, and it's now time to attach the lever. He inserts the pin in the holes in the lever and the bolt. He pinches the pin with pliers to secure it, and the lever now pivots freely on the cutting jaws. All the pieces of the nail clipper have come together, but the assembly processes have left oil and other residues on this tool. It's time for a cleaning in a special tub. Sound waves keep the water moving to distribute the soap and scrub them clean. Once they dry, a worker uses a combination of acid and positive electrodes to etch the company name and item number onto the nail clipper. The next employee sands the cutting edges to sharpen them. It takes skill and practice to get them just right. He holds the nail clipper to a light and scrutinizes the alignment of the jaws as he opens and closes them. This cardboard test confirms that these nail clippers are up to the job. From a blunt clipper on the left to a really sharp tool on the right, what a difference the sanding has made. The lever swivels for various clipping angles and then folds down neatly when not in use. It takes 11 people to manufacture 100 of these clippers an hour, and that means they've been working at a very fast clip. Long before the internet and electronic media, the poster was an important means of communication. These lithographed notices were used to sell everything from soap to political propaganda. Today, they're being painstakingly restored to preserve both the artistry and history behind them. These are the signs of a different time, and decades later, the bold artistry of these poster lithographs is still an attention grabber. Some vintage posters can be worth tens of thousands of dollars, which makes them worth restoring and preserving. Posters often become brittle and break along the fold lines. So first, this restoration specialist reassembles the torn sections and examines them to determine if this poster can be saved. He decides to proceed. He loosens old tape with solvent and carefully peels it away. Next, he separates the poster sections with plastic mesh to keep them from sticking together in a bleach bath. The bleach gently removes dirt and mildew to reveal the vintage poster's original colors. He presses out air pockets between the layers to maximize its effect. While the pieces of this poster dry, he prepares a paste of water, wheat, and calcium. The calcium will counteract the acid in the vintage paper, preventing further deterioration. He rolls the wheat paste onto a big sheet of acid-free paper, and he spreads more paste on a piece of linen-textured cotton. He then presses the paper to the fabric, and they adhere. He now has a big piece of fabric-backed paper. He rolls out the air bubbles and excess paste for a more even surface. He now reconstructs the poster on the fabric-backed paper, which is now saturated with glue. He works carefully and quickly to put the pieces together before the glue dries. One false move, and he could make a real mess of things. But experience pays off. He aligns the four sections perfectly. The glue dries, giving the vintage poster a solid backing. He flips through a collection of paper scraps in search of one that's similar in texture and thickness to the posters. He'll now use it to repair the poster's ripped corner. He traces the outline of the tear onto transparent paper. He cuts the scrap paper along the traced line, producing a new corner for the poster. One with exactly the right profile. He sands the edge a bit to give it a more gradual slope. He brushes vegetable-based glue onto the cutout. He aligns it with the torn edge and glues it in place, then flattens the new corner to make it level with the rest of the poster. It's now time to complete the picture by repairing the torn images. The tricky part is mixing the paint to match the poster's vintage colors. It sometimes takes a few tries to get it right and make the repair blend in. Even the white on the border has to match. No detail is overlooked as he restores the corner of this poster to its original condition. He touches up the rest of the artwork with watercolor pencils, applying color heavily or lightly where needed. And with a practiced hand, he makes all the flaws and fold lines disappear. By the time he's done, the vintage poster will look good enough to frame. With all the details now covered, he trims the poster on all sides. and examines his work for imperfections. The repairs have to both look and feel real. From a tattered relic of the past to one that looks fresh off the press, a restored vintage poster is an important piece of history, now preserved for future generations. Canola oil is a commonly used type of cooking oil. It's derived from the seed of the canola plant, which North American farmers have been growing for about 30 years. The plant blooms in the summer, producing bright yellow flowers. Farmers harvest the seeds from pods, which form after those flowers die off. Canola oil is one of the healthiest cooking oils. Compared to olive, sunflower, and soybean oils, it has the lowest level of saturated fat, 7%. It also contains more healthy omega-3 fatty acids, and is high in monounsaturated fat, which lowers cholesterol. When the canola seed arrives at the processing factory, it contains foreign material, mostly plant pieces. So the first step is to clean the seed in a vibrating sieve. The seeds, smaller than the openings in the sieve's mesh, fall through to a conveyor below. The foreign material remains on top. A conveyor moves it to a storage bin where it's collected for sale as cattle feed. The seeds pass by a magnet. It removes any metal that may have fallen in during the journey from field to factory. Next, the seeds enter a roller mill. They pass between two steel rollers, which crush them into thin flakes.